Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we are tackling global wealth.
Ooh, fun.
It's a big one.
Yeah, it is.
So we want to understand, you know, just what makes a nation rich in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, we have this super insightful article from Global Finance magazine
Okay.
called Richest Countries in the World 2024.
All right.
Like, help us kind of unpack all this.
Where I get this.
It turns out that some of the wealthiest countries are also some of the smallest.
Really?
I know, right?
Hmm.
But is it all about money?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people,
Yeah.
just kind of assume that like the biggest, most powerful countries
Huh.
are the wealthiest,
Right.
but the truth is much more interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Like take Luxembourg, Switzerland, or Singapore, for example.
I-
Like these small nations are economic giants.
So what's their secret? Like, what's the secret sauce?
Well, one key factor is attracting foreign investment and top talent. These countries have created these really sophisticated financial sectors
Mm-hmm.
and tax regimes that basically act like magnets for global businesses
Mhm.
and skilled professionals.
So it's not just about how much money a country makes,
Right.
but how that money, like, works for its people.
Exactly. And that's where purchasing power parity, or PPP, comes in.
Okay.
Think of it like this.
Okay.
You could be earning a massive salary,
Hmm.
but if everything from a loaf of bread to rent
Yeah.
costs twice as much, are you really well off?
Right.
PPP helps us compare how far your money actually goes
Okay.
in different countries.
So a country with a high GDP might not actually be the best place to live.
Yeah.
If the cost of living is, like, insane.
Exactly. And that's why some of these small nations,
Right.
the ones we've mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
can rank so highly in terms of wealth.
Interesting.
They've created environments where people's money just stretches further.
Now, this is where things get interesting for me. The article points out that Ireland, with its super low 12.5% corporate tax rate,
Yeah.
has become this huge magnet
Right.
for big companies
Mhm.
like Apple and Google.
Mm-hmm.
But does that mean that everyone in Ireland
Right.
is, like, living the high life?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
This brings up the whole issue of tax havens,
Okay.
which are places where individuals and companies can stash their wealth
Oh.
to avoid taxes in their home countries.
So it's kind of like a country appearing rich on paper.
Right.
But the wealth is more like this mirage.
Yeah,
It's mostly benefiting corporations and not necessarily the people.
that's a great way to put it. And it's a significant issue.
Okay.
The IMF estimates that by the end of the 2020s,
Mm-hmm.
a whopping 40% of global foreign direct investment
Wow.
could be linked to tax havens.
40%. That's a huge chunk of global wealth.
It is.
That might not even reflect, like, real economic activity
Yeah.
that benefits the average person.
It certainly raises questions about how we measure wealth and what it truly means for a nation to be rich.
It makes you wonder.
And even countries considered wealthy
Right.
aren't immune to economic shocks,
Right.
as we've seen in recent years.
Like even Norway,
Yeah.
which is known for its massive sovereign wealth fund,
Mm-hmm.
built from oil wealth,
Yeah.
took a hit when oil prices crashed back in 2020.
That's a perfect example. And then you have global events
Right.
like the pandemic, the war in Ukraine,
Yeah.
and the conflict in Gaza, which have really exposed inequalities,
Mm-hmm.
even in countries with strong social safety nets.
Yeah, it's like the cracks in the system became
Right.
impossible to ignore.
Exactly. The pandemic, for instance,
Yeah.
hit lower income families hardest as prices for like essentials,
Right.
like housing and food, skyrocketed.
So where do things stand now?
Wow.
The article gives us a list of the top 10 richest countries in the world
Okay.
based on PPP.
All right.
Let's dive into that.
Okay.
Starting with number 10, Norway.
They've got that impressive $1.4 trillion sovereign wealth fund
Right.
to cushion those economic blows.
Yeah.
That, coupled with their commitment to their social safety net,
Mm-hmm.
has helped them stay resilient.
And then at number 9,
Yeah.
no surprise here,
Okay.
it's the United States.
The U.S. economy is just a behemoth.
It is.
It even managed to bounce back from the 2020 recession in record time.
Wow.
Just 2 months.
That is fast.
It is.
Number 8 is the tiny nation of San Marino.
Okay.
Low income tax rates and a focus on tourism and manufacturing
Mm-hmm.
have helped them weather recent global storms.
They've shown some remarkable resilience,
Yeah.
especially considering their size.
Next, at number 7, it's Switzerland,
Oh, yeah.
the land of stunning scenery, delicious chocolate,
Of course.
and, of course, banks.
And millionaires.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know 1 in 6 adults in Switzerland is a millionaire?
Wow. That's a lot of millionaires.
It is.
Coming in at number 6, we have the United Arab Emirates.
The UAE has done an incredible job of diversifying its economy beyond oil.
Okay.
They've been investing heavily in sectors like tourism, construction, and finance, creating a real melting pot of cultures and industries.
And at number 5 is Qatar.
Another nation with vast oil and gas reserves.
Okay.
They've managed to hold their own among the wealthiest,
Yeah.
despite the recent ups and downs in energy prices.
Right.
Yeah.
Number 4 is Singapore.
Known for its business-friendly policies,
Mm-hmm.
highly skilled workforce,
Yeah.
and strategic location.
Right.
As a global trade hub,
Yeah.
Singapore has truly punched above its weight.
It has.
Yeah,
Okay, are you ready for the top 3?
I am.
Okay, at number 3, it's Ireland.
Ireland's low corporate tax rate has made it a haven for multinational corporations.
Right.
But as we discussed earlier, it's important to remember that this influx of corporate wealth
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always translate to widespread prosperity
Right.
for the average Irish citizen.
A good reminder that wealth at the top doesn't always trickle down.
Right.
Coming in at number 2 is Macau.
The Las Vegas of Asia
Yeah.
has bounced back strong after taking a hit during the pandemic.
Wow.
Their gambling industry is thriving once again.
And drumroll, please.
Yeah.
The richest country in the world in 2024 is Luxembourg.
This small European nation boasts the highest standard of living in the Eurozone,
Wow.
thanks in part to its strong financial sector and strategic investments in its people,
Okay.
particularly in areas like healthcare and education.
It's fascinating to see such a diverse group of countries in the top 10.
Yeah.
We have everything from oil-rich nations to
Right.
financial hubs to
Mhm.
tiny states with unique economic advantages.
Yeah, it really highlights that there's no one-size-fits-all path to economic prosperity.
Right.
Different countries have leveraged their strengths
Yeah.
and navigated global challenges in their own ways.
It also makes you wonder, though,
Yeah.
what does wealth really mean?
Mhm.
Is it just about the numbers, right? Or is it about something more?
That's a crucial question, especially when you consider the stark contrast in purchasing power
Yeah.
between the 10 poorest and 10 richest countries.
We're talking less than $1,500 per capita in the poorest countries,
Wow.
compared to over $110,000
Wow.
in the richest.
That's a staggering gap.
That is a huge gap.
It really underscores the reality of global inequality.
Yeah.
While some nations enjoy incredible prosperity,
Right.
others struggle to meet even basic needs.
This deep dive has shown us that there's a lot more to understanding a country's wealth
Yes.
than just looking at GDP figures.
Absolutely. Factors like purchasing power parity, income distribution tax policies,
Right.
and global events all play a crucial role
Yeah.
in shaping a nation's economic landscape.
So if wealth is more than just money,
Right.
what metrics should we be using to judge a country's success?
That's a great question.
Should happiness, sustainability, or access to opportunities be considered? What do you think?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
It challenges us to think beyond those traditional economic indicators and consider what truly makes a society thrive.
Right. Like it can't just be about cold, hard cash.
Exactly.
There's got to be more to it than that.
Yeah. Yeah, it really makes us think beyond just like, dollars and cents and,
Right.
looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah, speaking of which,
Yeah.
the article did highlight some interesting tidbits about each of the top 10 countries.
Yeah.
What stood out to you?
Well, take Luxembourg,
Okay.
our number one country.
Mm-hmm.
They invest a significant portion of their wealth back into their people,
Okay.
providing high quality like housing, healthcare, and education.
Okay.
It's clearly a key factor
Right.
in their high standard of living.
So they're not hoarding all the wealth at the top.
Right,
They're sharing the prosperity, which is pretty cool.
exactly. And then there's Macau,
Okay.
known for its dazzling casinos.
Yeah.
Even after the pandemic,
Mhm.
their per capita purchasing power actually increased. Talk about resilience.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
It seems like they've really figured out how to make that gambling industry work for them.
They certainly have. And then you have Ireland,
Yeah.
which has become a hub for multinational corporations thanks to its low corporate tax rate.
Right.
But as we discussed earlier,
Yeah.
it raises the question of whether that wealth is truly benefiting
Mm-hmm.
the Irish people as a whole.
Right. It's a good reminder that economic success
Yeah.
doesn't always mean everyone gets a piece of the pie.
Right.
So, true.
And then you have Norway,
Yeah.
a country that's clearly thinking long term.
Okay.
They've established that massive sovereign wealth fund
Right.
to ensure like financial stability down the road.
Yeah, it's like a giant national
Yeah.
savings account for a rainy day.
Yeah, exactly.
Smart move.
Yeah, and they've also managed to maintain a relatively low level of income inequality,
Oh, wow.
which is
Oh.
something that a lot of other wealthy nations struggle with,
Right.
so they seem to be striking a good balance.
It sounds like they're doing a lot of things right.
Yeah.
What about the United Arab Emirates?
Okay, well, the UAE
Mm.
has made impressive strides in diversifying its economy,
Yep.
moving away from relying solely on oil
Yeah.
and investing in tourism construction and finance.
So they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense in today's world.
Absolutely. They've recognized that adaptability is key
Mm-hmm.
in a rapidly changing global economy.
And how about Singapore?
Oh, Singapore.
Tiny island nation
Yeah,
that's become like a global economic powerhouse.
I know. It's amazing.
What's their secret?
Well, they've really focused on creating a business-friendly environment,
Okay.
investing heavily in education and infrastructure,
Hmm.
and attracting top talent from all over the world.
It's remarkable how much they've achieved
It is.
in just a few decades.
Yeah, it really is a remarkable success story.
And what about Qatar? What's their situation looking like?
Well, like Norway, Qatar has benefited greatly from its oil and gas reserves,
Right.
but they've also had to face challenges,
Yeah.
especially with the recent fluctuations in energy prices.
Right. So they've had to adapt
Right.
and find ways to navigate those uncertainties.
Exactly. It just goes to show that no country is immune to economic shocks, no
Right.
matter how wealthy they are.
Speaking of economic shocks, Switzerland has had to deal with the fallout
Oh, yeah.
from the near collapse of Credit Suisse.
That was a major event
That was.
that sent shockwaves through the Swiss financial system
Yeah.
and raised concerns about their reputation as like a global banking center.
Yeah, for sure. It's a reminder that even the most stable and seemingly secure economies
Right.
can be vulnerable.
Absolutely. And then we have San Marino,
Yeah.
the oldest republic in Europe.
That tiny nation that's managed to hold its own
I know.
despite all the recent global challenges.
Yeah, they've demonstrated incredible resilience,
Yeah.
particularly in their tourism and manufacturing sectors.
So it seems like each of these countries has its own unique path to success.
Yeah.
Its own story to tell.
Right, and each one faces its own set of challenges.
It really highlights how dynamic and ever-evolving the global economy is.
And how wealth is a complex concept
Yeah.
that goes far beyond just looking at the numbers.
Right. We need to consider like a much broader range of factors
Yeah,
when assessing a nation's well-being,
absolutely.
including income equality, sustainability, and the happiness of its citizens.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, something that really stuck with me from this article
Okay.
was the whole issue of tax havens.
Right.
The fact that a significant portion of global wealth
Mm-hmm.
might be tied up in these havens,
Yeah.
essentially hidden from taxation,
Yeah.
is pretty mind-blowing.
It's a controversial topic for sure.
Yeah.
One that raises serious questions about fairness and transparency
Right.
in the global financial system.
The article specifically mentioned Ireland as a tax haven,
Yeah.
attracting corporations with its low corporate tax rate.
Right. And while that's undoubtedly boosted their economy,
Yeah.
it also begs the question, is this wealth truly benefiting the Irish people as a whole?
It seems like a classic example of the potential downsides of tax havens.
Yeah.
They can create a system where corporations and wealthy individuals avoid paying their fair share,
Right.
leaving ordinary citizens to shoulder the burden.
And it's not just Ireland.
Right.
The article highlights how a growing percentage of global foreign direct investment
Yeah.
is being funneled through these tax havens.
So this is a global issue with potentially huge consequences.
It is.
It makes you wonder if these tax havens are distorting the true picture of global wealth.
They certainly complicate the picture.
Yeah.
It's difficult to accurately assess a nation's wealth
Right.
when a significant portion of it is tucked away in offshore accounts.
And it really raises questions about whether the way we currently measure wealth
Right.
is actually capturing the full story.
You're absolutely right. Maybe we need to rethink our approach to measuring wealth, taking into account factors like tax transparency and the distribution of income.
Yeah, a more nuanced approach is definitely needed
Yeah.
because as we've seen today, wealth is about much more than just the raw numbers.
It's about creating societies that are prosperous, just, and sustainable for all.
Well said. I think that's a perfect place to wrap up part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much to explore. Welcome back to our deep dive into global wealth. We've been talking about what it really means for a nation to be rich in 2024.
Yeah, going way beyond just those simple GDP figures, it's
Right.
definitely more nuanced than a lot of people realize.
For sure.
We've seen how size isn't everything, how economic shocks can hit even the wealthiest nations, and how things like purchasing power and income equality can paint a much more complete picture.
Right. It's like we've been peeling back the layers of an onion,
Yeah.
revealing all these surprising and thought-provoking insights.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating exploration.
It has been.
And it really all circles back to that fundamental question. What constitutes a truly wealthy nation?
Exactly.
Right.
Is it just about having a mountain of cash?
Right.
Or should we be like factoring in things like happiness, sustainability, access to opportunity,
Right.
and how evenly that wealth is spread among its
And
people?
those are all critical considerations.
Yeah.
Like, if a country has a sky-high GDP,
Mm-hmm.
but the majority of its citizens are struggling to make ends meet
Right.
or living in poverty,
Yeah.
can it really be considered successful?
That's a great point. And what about environmental impact?
Oh, that's huge.
Like, can a nation truly be considered wealthy
Right?
if it's achieving that wealth through practices that are like harming the planet?
Right.
That doesn't seem very sustainable.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. These are the kinds of questions we need to be asking ourselves if
Yeah.
we really want to move towards a more holistic
Mm-hmm.
and meaningful understanding of wealth.
And remember how we talked about how some of these like wealthy nations
Yes.
might not actually be generating all that wealth themselves?
Yeah, the issue of tax havens.
Yeah.
It's a complex and ethically challenging
Yeah.
aspect of the global financial system.
Yeah.
Like, a country might appear incredibly wealthy on paper,
Right.
but a significant portion of that wealth could be coming from, like, corporations and individuals
Right.
using it as a shelter to avoid taxes elsewhere.
So it's almost like this distorted reality where the money is present,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily benefiting
Right.
the people who actually live in that country.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder how much of the global wealth landscape
Yeah.
is being shaped by these tax havens.
It's a significant factor, no doubt, and it really highlights the need for greater transparency and
Yeah.
accountability in global financial systems.
So what can we do about it?
Oh,
It's
wow.
a huge, complex issue.
It is a massive challenge.
That feels way bigger than any one individual.
But that doesn't mean we should just throw up our hands in defeat.
Right.
Awareness is the first step.
Okay.
The more we understand how these systems work,
Yeah.
how wealth is generated and distributed
Mhm.
globally,
Yeah.
the better equipped we are to, like, address the issues.
So education and staying informed are crucial.
Absolutely. And then we can start asking the tough questions.
Right.
Challenging the status quo.
Yeah.
Advocating for fairer policies.
Mhm.
And holding our leaders accountable.
It can feel like a David versus Goliath situation, though.
Yeah.
Can we really make a difference as individuals?
Never underestimate the power of collective action.
Okay.
Every voice matters.
Mm-hmm.
Supporting organizations working to address these issues.
Yeah.
Voting for leaders who align with your values.
Right.
These are all ways to make a difference.
You're right. We can't just sit back and wait for someone else to fix things.
Right.
This deep dive has really driven home the point that wealth, true wealth,
Yeah.
should be about so much more than just lining the pockets of a few.
Right.
It should be about creating a world where everyone
Right.
has the opportunity to thrive.
Well said. It's about building a more just equitable and sustainable future for all.
So for all of you listening out there,
Yeah.
maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed by all this information,
Yeah.
what's the one key takeaway you'd want to leave them with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that understanding a country's wealth goes far beyond just looking at those GDP figures.
Right.
We need to consider purchasing power parity,
Mm-hmm.
income distribution,
Yeah.
tax policies,
Right.
the impact of global events.
Yeah.
It's a multifaceted issue.
And I think it's also crucial to remember that wealth, in its truest sense,
Yeah.
should be about more than just money.
It should.
It should be about well-being, opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
and creating a world where everyone can flourish.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as you go about your day, consider this.
Yeah.
If wealth is more than just money,
Right.
what metrics should we be using to judge a country's success?
Yeah.
Should things like happiness, sustainability, or access to opportunity be given more weight?
It's definitely something to ponder.
It is.
It challenges us to redefine what we value as a society.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into global wealth.
Oh,
Thanks for joining us on this insightful journey.
it's been fun.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing and those questions coming.